Hello. So today we are going on a food tour for brunch lunch. It starts at 10:30 and it's going to last about 3 hours. And then the only other thing we have planned tonight is dinner at Rebirth. So pretty much today all you're going to see is food. We'll see you there. Bye. Going to be able to eat. So we started off with these cookies. Sorry you guys didn't get to meet our tour guide. You'll get to meet him a little bit later. But his name is
Laurent.
So, Laurent.
It's Laurent. You said Laurent.
Follow us along. Bye.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
How you guys doing?
Good.
Good. How's the hangover? Yeah, it's New Orleans. You know what they say about New Orleans? It's a drinking town with a music problem. My name is Laurent. I used to be a chef. I was a chef for about 30 years. We're going to be walking around the city. We're going to be walking on the banquette. That's the name we use for the sidewalk here in New Orleans. So I want to stop here for a minute. This is the La Branche mansion. Jean-Baptiste Labranche was a very wealthy plantation owner outside the city, and it was traditional for a lot of plantation owners to have houses in a quarter, so they could use it for business, meeting and trading and things like that, but also for pleasure. A lot of them had mistresses, and that was a tradition of New Orleans for plantation owners to have mistresses in the city. I'll explain you a little bit later how it came about. So this guy had a mistress, and when he passed away, his wife came from the plantation and she found the mistress. So she decided, you know what, I'm going to lock her up, put her upstairs on the third floor, and let her starve to death. So that's what she did. And she lived with the body of the mistress for 15 years above on the third floor.
Wow.
Food in New Orleans. What I like about the food here, first, it's not that complicated. It's very simple, but it's got a lot of different flavors coming from different influences. And the first one came about is the French arrived here in 1699. And after that, you had the Africans arrived here in 1719. And they brought with them the okra. Okra in African language is spelled N''G-O-M-B-O and gombo. So it becomes the gombo soup. So that's why we put okra in a gombo and it becomes the gombo soup. So that's one, for example, influence. Another one after that is the Spaniards. You know, we'll taste a little bit later some jambalaya, and I'll explain you the origin of the jambalaya and how it's made. The Cajun influence, and I'm sure a lot of you is going to ask, what's the big difference between Creole and Cajun? I'll explain you that also a bit later on. The techniques of cooking are the same all over the world. In fact, once you know those techniques, anybody can cook. It's only 5 ways to cook meat. There's only 5 ways to cook vegetables. I don't care who you are. That's it. You know. So once you know how to do that, you know, sauté, frying, poached, blanch. That's it. We're going to go inside the market, and over there we're going to have one of the famous sandwiches of New Orleans, the moufaleda sandwich. And so this is the French market. This one is about 200 years old, and it's one of the oldest in a country of this style. So this is what you guys doing?
Pretty good. So what's this called again?
Moufaletta.
Welcome to Tujac. Tujac is one of the oldest bar and restaurant here in New Orleans, established in 1856. The other thing that's famous here for here is the drinks. When Mr. Tujac passed away, the Guichet brothers bought the place. Philibert Guichet, the guy in the painting here, invented a drink called the grasshopper. You heard about the grasshopper? So the grasshopper is cream of meat, cream of cacao, cream, shallot brandy. It's also called the Girl Scout cookie. So it's pretty good, it's very creamy, very tasty. The other famous drink that's serving here, and they do a good job of it, is called the Sazerac. Sazerac is the oldest cocktail in America. Originally it was made with cognac, brandy, little absinthe, and pecho. And pecho is it's a pharmacist here in town that made a bitter, and it's called pecho bitter. And they're still making it. And it's a little bit of absinthe and orange flavor to it. So nowadays they don't use brandy, but they use rye whiskey. So the Sazerac is a very popular drink here in New Orleans. Be careful, it's dangerous.
So this is
Brisket.
and this is, what kind of sauce is this? The remoulade?
Red remoulade.
Red remoulade.
Jackson Square. Over there you have the St. Louis Cathedral. The original building was built in 1699. It was a little chapel, and it got destroyed during the first hurricane of 1721. And rebuilt, burned during the fire, Good Friday fire, 1788. Burned again in the fire of 1794. Welcome to Creole Cookery. So we're going to have the jambalaya here. So the jambalaya, that's a whole thing. Jambalaya, originally you have the Spanish paella that becomes the jambalaya. So that's what it is. You have two kinds of jambalaya. You have the Creole jambalaya and the Cajun jambalaya. So jambalaya itself, like everything, like a lot of recipes in New Orleans, it starts with a roux. The roux is a French technique of butter and flour mixed together and cooked together as a way of thickening soups or stew or sauce. So here in New Orleans, you start with a blanc roux for the Creole jambalaya, and you had your Holy Trinity. The Holy Trinity is the equivalent of the French mirepoix. Onions, celery, but instead of carrots, they use bell peppers. Earlier we were talking about that carrots don't grow very well here because the ground is very wet. So they'll use whatever is growing above ground. So bell peppers are very popular. And that's where you find that flavor of the South with a lot of bell peppers. That's why. So they put the Holy Trinity, and after they're going to put the meat or the fish. The meat here is going to be chicken and onion sausage, smoked sausage, which is a German style sausage. The German immigrants were living in Biloxi, what we call the German coast, and they moved up to New Orleans, and they settled the part of northwest of the city along the river, and they make those what we call German style sausages, the andouille and smoked sausage, and we're going to have some of that in jambalaya here. And after that you add your spices, what we call the Creole seasoning. And the Creole seasoning is a blend of spices. Every chef in town has a different blend. So what's the difference? What is Creole and what is Cajun? Anybody has an idea? All right. So Creole and Cajun. Creole is city food, Cajun is country food. So this is an interesting corner. We're going to go to the Kingfish for Cajun food. We'll be there in a minute. But here it's an interesting corner. First of all, over there you have the Napoleon House. The Napoleon House was built by a mayor of New Orleans called Giraud. And the rumor was that Napoleon was going to come and visit the city and stay here. So the French came here in 1699. The French lost the war against Spain, and the King of France gave the colony of Louisiana to his cousin, the King of Spain, as a gift of peace in 1762. So the Spanish took over in 62. Later on, the next ruler of France was Napoleon. He went back to war and lost a lot of money. He needed some money, and he won the war against Spain. So the King of Spain gave back Louisiana to France. The deal with the colonies was, for the European countries, was to make money. You know, like Spain was getting a lot of silver and gold from South America, so they were hoping to make this place profit. But the colony was never profitable here. There's nothing really besides crawfish and frog legs. You know, it's not much here.
Interrupted their talk.
So Napoleon was pretty smart. He flipped it around very quickly, and 2 years later he sold it to the Americans, and that's the Louisiana Purchase of 1803. And I don't know if you guys look at the map. The Louisiana Purchase, about 15 states, pretty much the Mississippi Valley, from Louisiana all the way to Canada. And it's about, in the dollars of those days, it was $50 million, about 4 cents an acre. So it was a pretty good deal. So the rumor was that Napoleon was to come here and stay here, but he never did. So there you go. Here you have the what we call today the Omni Hotel. Originally it was called the St. Louis Exchange Hotel. And the sad part of it, that was a market for slaves. That's where they traded the slaves, and it's one of those places. There are a few of those in the city, and it's one of them. Behind you, you have this big building. It's the courthouse, the Supreme Court and the Court of Appeal of the state of Louisiana, built in 1910. Originally, when it got built, people hated it. They call it the White Elephant. I mean, it's not really looking like the rest of the French Quarter. What happened is, the French were living here. When Americans came in 1803, they were not very welcome. And the first governor, Claiborne, didn't speak any French. He didn't try to learn French, and the French didn't try to learn English. So there was a lot of miscommunication, or no communication whatsoever. So the French didn't let the Americans settle here in the city. They gave them free land, a plantation near a site called the Bienville Plantation, and they could start their own settlement. And that's why we call the CBD today, the Central Business District, where you have all the banks, the cotton exchange and all that. And further down, further uptown, you go to what we call the Garden District, and that's where the big mansions were built by the Americans. So we're saying that Americans wanted to get back to the French, so they built this ugly thing in the middle of the quarter. They stick it to the French. Voila, boom. So on the other side of the street, you have a famous restaurant called the Brennan's. I don't know if you heard of the family, the Brennans. I used to work for Dickie Brennan. I was one of the chefs at the Place Cafe and Dickie Brennan Steakhouse. The Brennan's on Royal used to be a brothel in the old days. What happened is, there was a neighborhood a few blocks away called Storyville, where they put all the whores in one place. And they had a brothel here, where the Brennans are, but what happened when they built this courthouse, they could not possibly have the judges and the whores at the same place. So the whores went. All right.
Fast forward to today, and
All right.
Okay. Just sit at the bar. Grab those 4 seats. Yep. Oh, too tall for me. I'm short.
Hi guys, everybody. Welcome to the Kingfish. So we're going to have Cajun food here. Kingfish, who's Kingfish? This guy is the Kingfish. That was his nickname. He said, call me the Kingfish. He was the governor of Louisiana. You can tell he's a little crazy. He's a crazy character. He's a good Louisiana politician, Puritan like everybody else. Welcome to the club. And what made him interesting in particular is that when he campaigned for the governorship, he was the first one to do that in a car. Around the state, he campaigned in his car. Nobody's done that before. He could see the whole state. Most recently, he realized there's no infrastructure. So he wanted to create jobs. So he said to the state, we're going to create jobs, we're going to build the state. So he built all the railroad tracks, roads, schools, hospitals, all the bridge over the river. In fact, you see some of the pictures on the wall over there. Some of the stuff that he built. It was a very interesting old character. After that, he went to the Senate. He got elected as a senator. And finally, his corruption, his doings got caught up with him. He got assassinated in 1935, coming out of the elevator of the Capitol House. So that was the end of it. Done. Prosecuted people, I guess. So Cajun food. We were talking about earlier that all those flavors. What we're going to have here. So the tradition of Cajun food is one of them is the pig. The raised pig, like they do in Europe, France or Spain. And they're going to eat the pigs. There's a scratch competition every day. And at the end of the year, you're going to have a big pig. And you get together and you throw a party. And it's called a butchery. Butchering of the pig. You slaughter the pig and you process the pig, the whole pig in one day. The skin, the feet, the head, pork belly, bacon, vegetables, the whole 9 yards. So usually it's a big party. You know, people get the music, Nautico, accordions, fiddle, tap the feet, have a good time, a little drinking, obviously. And so we have a tradition of peak food here in town. So you're going to have the cracklings, which is fresh here, which are very good, which is the pork skin, and it's going to be served with a pimiento cheese sauce. And you're going to have the boudin ball. So the boudin, at the end of the day, when they were butchering the pig, they had pork meat left over. So they make sausages. It's the French word for boudin. It's a sausage. It's made with rice and spices. So usually it's pork, but it can be crawfish, it can be alligator. So yeah, we're going to have boudin ball that's fried, served with a Creole mustard sauce with a red pepper jelly. Very good. So, drinks. Those guys serve really cool Pimp's Cup. So the Pimp's Cup, a little bit of a traditional drink here in New Orleans too. Very refreshing. It's not very strong in alcohol, but it's very strong in flavor. Pimp's is a liquor from England. Has a lot of botanical flavor, herbal, caramelized oranges, spices. And usually it's mixed with soda or champagne. And here they put a lot of fruits and cucumbers. So it's very refreshing. So usually in New Orleans, when you go to a gallery opening or reception or wedding or plantation, the first drink they're going to give you is a Pimp's Cup to welcome you. So you don't get too drunk, but they give you a little alcohol, a little lubricant to get you going. So, and they do a really good Pimp's Cup. So if you guys want to hang out, we'll talk about very shortly. If you have any questions,
Will you take a picture with
a lot of people don't know that. That's a great place to visit. So we're talking about Cajun food. One of the most famous Cajun chef is Paul Prudhomme. I don't know if some of you heard of him. He was famous in the late 70s, early 80s. He was on TV. He had these things around his neck, and he's a pretty big chef. And he was a Cajun chef. That's his restaurant over there, Paul's. Paul Prudhomme, Paul's K stands for his wife. Paul passed away a few years ago. His daughter is now running the kitchen. Paul Prudhomme is the Cajun chef that pretty much civilized Cajun food to the city. You know, he brought it here and he started to create recipes like you heard, the blackened fish, the blackened technique. That's started by Paul Prudhomme. What it is, you take all your Cajun seasoning, or Creole seasoning, and rub it on the chicken or the fish. Put it in the pan without oil, very hot, and you burn all the spices. Again, you're going to kill that swamp taste to it. Yeah, it could be blackened fish or blackened chicken. That's where it's coming from. So I think it's always interesting to find out, wow, what happened and who did that. So that's an example of Cajun food. All right. Welcome to the New Orleans School of Cooking. I don't know if any of you want to come back later on and take some classes. That's a great place to do that. Those guys do a class for gumbo and all those things. So it's just fun, you know, you can watch the guys doing it. Praline. We're going to have the praline, a little sweet. Praline, not praline, okay? It's not a trolley, it's a streetcar, all right? So the praline, originally the praline was a little confection started by a French chef by the name of Praline. It became the praline. And I remember as a kid, the tradition of the praline was for baptism and weddings and first communion. I was born and raised a Catholic, and the city is Catholic here. So the tradition of the praline was, you know, around the tables. As a kid, I used to go around, put it in my pocket. You know, and my mom would get angry because by the time I finished, it was all melted. So my pockets were full of melted praline. So the praline is originally was an almond, whole almond that was coated in sugar in France. Here, what they do, they don't have almonds. They use pecan, and they do sugar cane, syrup, butter, a bit of cream, and it's all put together. So it's very sweet. And traditionally, you know, you guys you go to the store, the grocery store, and you buy yourself a little chocolate bar after your lunch. You say, oh, I need a little pickup. Well, in New Orleans, if you go to the grocery store, you're going to have a basket of praline next to the cashier, and you're going to buy yourself or your kids, you know, a little bowl of praline and take it home. So that's the praline tradition. So I'm going to get some praline for you guys. I'll be right back.